The one and only Xylophoney here to share with you my Danger Dark World deck that we made for Duel Week. This is as good as I think Danger Dark World can be, and obviously we're not stuffing it with hand traps, which, could make it a little more viable, but this is the most consistent this deck can get, and it's pretty nasty. I love it. So, without further ado, let's go over some of the details of it. So you got a ton of level 8 XE monsters that you can go into. You got a bunch of Link monsters and a few different ways you can run the Link stuff. The extra deck, in all honesty, you can kind of run a few different things in it. It's a lot of preference. Like, you can even run a Zombie Stein in it. It's just I decided other cards were a little bit better. You can run Red Eyes Flare, Metal Dragon, or Big Eye to use level 7s for. There's a lot of things, and even a version of this deck can run Volcasaurus, which you never get to do. So, I probably will throw Volcasaurus and some cards to bring him out into this deck afterwards, but he's really not that special. Anyway, let's go into the monsters here, the dangers. So we got Bigfoot. Essentially, the thing with dangers is you can activate their effect to make your opponent select one random card from your hand and discard it to your own graveyard. So, that means that you say, I want to summon Danger Bigfoot, and then they go and just discard one of the random cards in your hand. Say you have 5 cards in your hand, they pick one of 5, it goes to the graveyard. The benefit is all of the Danger cards also have effects when they're sent to the graveyard, as well as Dark World cards have effects when they're sent to the graveyard, and that's where the mixing really goes on with this deck. So, for example, Bigfoot, he is the strongest power of the Danger deck. He has 3,000 attack points, and when he's sent to the graveyard, you get to select one card on the field and destroy it, one face-up card. So even if he's sent to the graveyard, still okay, you get an effect off. If something else is sent to the graveyard, you get to summon him, special summon just like that, and you get whatever the effect of the other thing you're sent to the graveyard is. Next up we got Nessie, the level 7 Danger monster. This one's more in the defense category. However, its effect is when it's sent to the graveyard, you get to search any of your Danger cards. So you can just pull a Bigfoot to your hand if you would prefer to have that if this is sent to the grave. Then we have Chupacabra, who is probably the weakest of the Danger cards. He essentially is a monster reborn. If he's sent to the graveyard, you get to pull a Danger out from your graveyard and special summon it to the field. However, obviously that's not going to be very effective in the earlier part of the duel. And then finally we have Danger Jackalope, who when he's sent to the graveyard, he gets to bring a Danger monster from your deck rather than the graveyard. So extremely good in early game. If it does get to a late game period, he's not as good. And you can also only activate each of these guys once a turn. They're sent to the graveyard effect. Their special summon from hand effect, you can activate that as many times as you want. And that's why we have a bunch of Dark World monsters in here to just be fodder to send to the graveyard. So, if you're not very familiar with Dark Worlds, they all have effects when they're sent to the graveyard. There's a bunch of spell cards that send them to the graveyard. So, the main one is Grapha. When this guy is sent from your hand to the graveyard, you get to destroy one card on the field, much like Bigfoot. Except Grapha also, you want him in the graveyard, because when he goes to the graveyard, you can switch out any Dark World monster on your field for Grapha. So you can have this little weak one with 1,400 attack points on the field, normal summon it, and then switch it out for Grapha. And then Brow gets brought back to your hand. Then any of the Dark World monsters get brought back to your hand. So it gives you more stuff to discard for more capabilities. You can see how this is starting to add up. Then we have some more generic Dark World monsters. We have Lucent, which has the effect, when he's sent to the graveyard, you special summon him. Not bad. 2,400 attack, or you can just switch him out for a Grapha if you already have that in the graveyard. And we have Beige, who essentially does the same thing. Some people run other cards rather than Beige. I like Beige just in case you don't have anything. You can still normal summon him and switch him out for a Grapha, worst case scenario. So that works out. But then we have some of the Dark World monsters that help you draw and search. We have Snow, which lets you search one Dark World card. Normally you're going to want to get the field card or sometimes Grapha depending on your situation. And we have Brow, which might be my favorite one in the deck just because I love draw power. When you discard this guy, you draw a card. And most of the things that make you discard this guy also let you draw a card. So just sending this guy to the graveyard is usually a +2. Pretty handy. Now, of course, using the Danger cards, discarding Danger cards, you do get to bring a card to your hand, and if you discard a brow, then you bring a card to your hand. And let's get to the other things that help you discard. Most importantly, we have 3 Gates of the Dark World. Now this one's only gonna let you discard Dark World monsters, but as you can tell, the Dark World population in this deck is a little heavier than the Dangers, and the Dangers will let you discard by themselves as is. So this card, you activate it, discard something from your hand to graveyard, and you get a draw off it. And if you discard a brow, you get 2 draws off it, or if you discard a snow, you get a draw and a search off it. So, you fill up your hand while using these cards. Not to mention it boosts your Fiend-type monsters, bringing Grapha up to a nice clean 3,000, tied up with Bigfoot. Pretty good stuff. We have Dark World Dealings, and this will let you discard anything. So if you want to use it to discard a danger monster, by all means, you can go ahead and do that if you really need to get like Bigfoot's effect off, or Nessie's effect off to search for a Bigfoot, for example. You can do that. Only downside is your opponent also draws and discards, and if they have any cards that want to be discarded in their hand, you're going to help your opponent out a little bit. Or they'll just be able to, you know, pick through their cards and have, you know, a slightly better option than they did before. So I do prefer Gates of the Dark World, but this is also a very good thing. And then, my favorite, Drag Down into the Grave. This card is probably the most situational of those 3. However, if you activate it, both players reveal their hands, and each player selects one of their opponent's cards to send to the graveyard. So you get to select one of your opponent's cards. You know, if you know their deck, then you can pick whatever card's gonna make their combo and get rid of it. Then they draw a card, so if you don't have anything great to get rid of in your opponent's hand, you're just shuffling out cards for another one. But if they do have a big powerful card, you get rid of that thing instantly. And usually when you activate Drag Down by the Grave, you only have 1 or 2 cards in your hand, and they both have excellent effects when they're sent to the graveyard, so your opponent is always left with a terrible option. And then of course we have Allure of Darkness, because these are all dark monsters. It's a monster heavy deck. 3 Allure of Darkness, more draw power, and Danger Zone. There's only 2 of them in here. It's an insanely good card, but when you do get multiple of them, you can't play multiple in a round. Essentially what it is, it's a graceful charity for danger cards. You draw 3 cards and discard 2. Now, you need to have at least one of those 2 to be a danger card, which will usually be the case, and if you're not feeling risky, you can just wait till you get a danger card to activate it. And then, yeah, so you draw 3, discard 2, and then you get their effects off. And you get the other 3 cards, and you get the other cards in your hand. It's pretty good! We also have Monster Reborn in here. You know, it's just a good card, but if you want to switch this out for something else, such as hand traps, feel free. Then we have Skill Drain, which you probably don't want to switch out, because Skill Drain is extremely effective, because you can still activate all the effects from the hand. You can still activate all the effects when they're sent to the grave. Almost all these monsters, in fact all of them besides Phantom Skyblaster, don't really do anything while they're on the field. So, Skill Drain's not going to hurt your basic monsters, but it'll likely hurt your opponent's monsters. The only thing it does hurt is if you go into a lot of extra deck monsters, then you're going to want those effects. So, usually just put that Skill Drain down and wait for the right moment, because 1,000 life points are a real cheap price for stopping every play your opponent has. And yeah, that brought us to our other monster we have in here randomly that you could switch out. Phantom Skyblaster, I have it in here. 1, it's another dark monster. Fiend, I can always discard it, use its effects for that. But when you have a couple monsters on the field, you can normal summon this guy, which this deck never normal summons, so I haven't been there just for that. So you normal summon him, get some tokens, turn those tokens into link monsters, help yourself facilitate some plays. If you're going into some nightmare cards, such as Nightmare Unicorn, then you can really get a lot of use out of this card. So, fill the field with tokens, make all your link cards, you can connect up Nightmare Unicorn to Nightmare Phoenix to Nightmare Cerberus, and then none of those 3 link monsters can be destroyed by battle damage, effects, or other stuff. And when your turn comes around, if you haven't beat your opponent yet with those 3, you draw 3 cards instead of 1. And you know the kind of draw power that's in this deck. You're not only going to be getting 3 cards that turn. So that usually brings you a win pretty quickly if you make that happen. The other way to get tons of tokens on the field is using 2 of your Nessies, and that'll let you bring Galaxy Tomahawk out. Galaxy Tomahawk's the only level 7 I put in this extra deck. If you would like to throw something such as Red Eye's Flare Metal or Big Eye in there, by all means, go for it. Plus, not everyone loves Galaxy Tomahawk, and it fills up a little bit of the other extra deck cards. So, but Galaxy Tomahawk puts himself and 5 tokens on the field, meaning once again you can set up your Nightmare wall, or you could, use those tokens to go into all other things, such as Borrelsword Dragon. I've spoken about Borrelsword and Borrelode Dragon enough. They're really tough cards, so you might just want to put them in here, because Borrelsword's easy OTKs, Borrelode can get you out of almost any situation. Really good Link 4 monsters. You don't always want to go for the Link 4s with this deck, because the regular monsters by themselves are pretty powerful, so if you can just spam them out, that's also a good play. You kind of got to judge what your opponent's using and what's the best option against it. But we've started dipping into the extra deck here. Obviously, the Galaxy Tomahawk is the only reason we're running Clifford Genius, because they're all machines, so we want to get that out. Then we can turn 2 of them into Link Spiders and change the names up, change the types up, and start linking it all off. So to make the Galaxy Tomahawk play, you do have to have like 4 or at least 3 cards in your extra deck used up. So I'll let that be up to your discretion. We also have a Wee Witch's Apprentice in here, just because it's one of the most basic cards we could use when we only do want to link off 2 guys. If we have 2, defense mode monsters on the field, we can pull this out. It might help us later, and it'll boost all these monsters' attack because they're dark. Why not? We talked about the Nightmare monsters, we talked about the Galaxy Tomahawk, now we come to the level 8s. If you know a lot about rank 8 Xy's in Yu-Gi-Oh, I'll leave these up to your personal preference, but the ones I use are number 90, because it can be used for negating monster effects, number 38, Hope Harbinger, because it can be used to negate your opponent's spells and take them in for more material, and then we have Galaxy Eye Cypher Dragon, who you can use to take over control of an opponent's monster. I usually don't use this one a ton, just because when I do that, then I can't attack as well, and this deck usually moves pretty quickly. A lot of OTKs or like second turn kills, stuff like that. So, up to that. But realistically, this card you bring it out, and then you can go into either Galaxy Eye's Cypher Blade, who can be used for a bunch of cool stuff, and Galaxy Eye's Dark Matter Dragon, who is 4,000 attack points. He's the powerhouse of the deck. Obviously, if you want to run Zombie Stein instead, you can use that powerhouse. But Galaxy Eye's Dark Matter has capabilities of attacking twice, which I found is more necessary against certain decks, while just having raw power can only get you so far. But that's all of the extra deck that we have there. Other cards that we've considered is, much like the Phantom Sky Blaster, Tour Guide is a reasonable normal summon. You can freely special summon a level 3 Fiend monster, such as one of your Dark Worlds. I guess that would be Brow. But, it doesn't hurt. Lets you get 2 things out on a field. It's just that usually I don't run it because you can get more than 2 things out with the play. But you don't use normal summon, so you really lose nothing out of it. You can always throw in a Tornado Dragon if you feel you need the spell destruction. I talked about Volcasaurus. There's a Dark World monster that's level 5 if you want to switch out the Lucents for that one. I just went with Lucent because he has 100 more attack points. Then you can run yourself a Volcasaurus. Of course, these guys can be exchanged for your Galaxy Tomahawk. If you want to go harder on the Nightmare engine, go for it. I'm just not super experienced with Nightmares, but they're always good when they work. Now, more draw power you could add is Trade-In, because you have 6 level 8 monsters. Chances are you're going to have one to use Trade-In on, but if you get Trade-In like after you did all your plays later, that's when I found that it's not as convenient, so I ended up taking it out. Into the Void is another source of draw power, because if you have 3 or more cards in your hand, really good early game. You can draw a card, so it's a free draw, and then during the end phase you discard everything, and most of your things have effects when you discard them. All your spells and traps you can just set on the field, all your monsters with cool effects will get discarded. The only reason I don't like this card is because, well, it's at the end of your turn, so you can't stack off of those plays like you can with almost everything else in this deck. And then we have Lightning Vortex because it's a more fun version of Raigeki. You could run Raigeki in this deck or any deck if you'd like to, but this lets you discard a card at the same time. So why not? Of course, it's only face-up monsters, so it's not quite as good as Raigeki, but I would add it in here just for flavor. Soul Charge, of course, why not? If you're using Link monsters, throw in a Soul Charge if you like it. I just felt I didn't always need it, so. And then other cards that can just go in any deck are in here. Anything you want to throw in an actual side deck, throw in here. Get your hand traps in here. Get your evenly matched. Get your, called down, or darn it, I'm mixing up drag down into the grave and called by the grave. And yeah, anything else you want to add in that side deck. This is just other cards you might want to consider for the deck. You could make it go super heavy draw power by adding the trade-ins and Into the Voids, but I think it's already got, it's already got 9 cards of draw power plus Brow, so that's 12 cards of draw power. Not to mention, I guess Gates of the Dark World also give you a draw. So there's a lot of draw power here. You're gonna be fine. Anyway, let's show you how this deck works. Duel. Fortunately, I have a bunch of replays from a live stream I did testing the Dark World deck, and I went undefeated against 6 people. So, undefeated for the entire stream, so it was pretty good stuff. Now, of course, my opponents weren't already meta decks or anything, and, you know, there are plenty of things that can counter this. Obviously, if you're doing stuff that counters graveyard, counters discards, you can easily stop Dark World dangers. But for now, let's see what we got. Our opponent, unfortunately, starts off with Palladium Oracle Mahad. That's why I'm not a big fan of that card, just because it's rough. It's rough. So they get the first turn. They go for nothing. Oh wait, no, I have the first turn and I go for nothing. That sounds more like me. So sometimes if you don't think you got a lot of plays, just don't go for it. My best play would have been to set these cards or I guess play Gates of the Dark World. If I send Grapha to the graveyard, there's nothing to destroy. If I send Chupacabra to the graveyard, there's nothing to get back. So let's play risky. So our opponent sets their cards and summons a barrier statue. And now they forget to attack, but it's only 1,000 life points, so it's not a big deal. Now I get Nessie, so I have multiple danger cards to work with. So now we're going to put Gates of the Dark World on the field. We're going to use Dark World Dealings because now we have targets for Grapha. So there goes Grapha. We're going to get rid of that face down, and it was a Horn of Heaven. So obviously if the monster's not a threat, you can always just target the back rows with Grapha. I am generally afraid of back rows, so there we go. And of course we got to draw off using that as well. So now what we're going to do is we are going to use Drag Down by the Grave, but I wasn't thinking and forgot that Phantom Sky Blaster was in my hand. He's not perfect card in this deck, but he's still good. Either way, I still get a draw off it, which is kind of what I needed. So I activate Nessie, which is probably going to discard either Nessie or Lucent. Lucent's discarded, meaning he gets special summoned to the field. I draw another card, so I have Nessie and Lucent on the field. I activate Dark World, or Gates of the Dark World, to send that Lucent away and another Lucent to the field, which brings this one to the hand, and I can switch this Grapha out for Lucent and bring him to the hand. So, we have some stuff to fight with now, and our opponent's unfortunately bricking a little hard. They have a Monster Reborn, so they could possibly do some plays, but, you know, they don't have much in their graveyard, I don't have much in my graveyard. They are able to bring out a Diabolos, so it is strong enough to beat Lucent. They go for that, but it's matching the power of Grapha, and I think what I'm about to do is take him by card effects. So we discard another Grapha, so we can target a monster and destroy it, and we instead target the back row, which was a Storming Mirror Force. You can see why I target back rows. And we just decided to normal summon Beige, because we can swap out Beige for the other Grapha. As I said, that's why I run Beige rather than just more tougher monsters, because Beige can do that. So we're going to turn those two into Galaxy Eyes Cypher Dragon, and actually go into Cypher Blade Dragon. Now, I didn't really heavily explain this effect, but check it out. I discard, target a card, destroy it. Scary back row. I ain't messing around with that back row, which he could have actually popped, but it wouldn't have been any good in this particular situation, I guess. So he just wants to kind of protect himself from taking some damage. So he only takes 200 life points, but he has a clear field. Really only 3 usable cards in hand. He doesn't go for the Monster Reborn. He could, but nothing's going to be stronger than the Cypher Blade at the moment. So I'm going to pop the Cypher Blade again, get rid of that back row, because back rows are scary. We use Gates of the Dark World to discard Brow, meaning we draw 2 cards. We draw another Gates of the Dark World, and if you have multiple Gates of the Dark World, you can keep activating it. So I do that, and we send Lucent to the graveyard, and he gets special summoned. Then we set down all our spells, because we're going to force our opponent into Drag Down by the Grave. So our opponent has to choose Beige, yet we can pick and choose. So obviously I'm picking the Monster Reborn. Go ahead, keep that Palladium Oracle in your hand. And now I can just keep on doing these plays. Switch out to Grapha. Switch out to Grapha. More cards in hand. I could have kept going, but we knew this was game. So, there it is. Next up, we had a duel against Cyber Dragons. I was able to force the Cyber Dragons to go first, but he had a Cyber Dragon core, so he has stuff. He has some plays he can make. He goes into a Seeger, but he doesn't have any way to get that Cyber Dragon onto the field, so we can't get a Cyber Dragon Infinity out there. So, not much else. I think he was hoping to get some better results off those, but not quite, so pretty lackluster turn for him. Maybe he should have waited, but then again, if he waited against a hand like this in a Danger Dark World deck, he'd have some problems. So I start by using Dark World Dealings, getting rid of my snow so I can search the gates right there. Or, no, I already had gates. I was about to search gates, but I was like, nope, I have it, so I'll grab a Grapha. Now I can use the Gates of the Dark World and discard Grapha, or actually no, sorry, I didn't use gates yet. I used Chupacabra's effect, which lets your opponent discard one of your cards. I just got fortunate enough that they chose Grapha, and there goes Seagull. So now I'm going to activate Bigfoot's effect. Our opponent selects a random card, and it's Brow. I think I was getting really lucky with my opponent's card choices here, because Brow means I draw 2 cards. So that happens. We get a skill drain, which pretty much solidifies the win. I don't think I've ever lost this with this deck when I have a skill drain on the field ready to use. I do a drag down by the grave, forcing them to send Lucent, and I can send even more of their plays to the graveyard. You know, there's stuff that can be used, so unfortunately they just draw another Cyber Dragon, which I didn't know at the time, but my field's starting to stack up. So now we'll finally use the Gates of the Dark World, and we'll get Lucent onto the field. And we ended up drawing another gate. So if we had another monster rather than Into the Void, which I was running at this time, then we would have been able to keep going. But, I mean, we got attacks. Oh, yeah, but he comes in with the Cybernetic Overflow to wipe me out. It wasn't over yet. So now I'm at a difficult spot because I just burned a lot of plays to get this far. But with how much draw power comes out of this deck, I can keep going. So Cyber Dragon comes out. We see a Galaxy Soldier come out. Now, these guys are still going to be fine. They're going to keep their attack points. But he was totally thinking of going into Cyber Dragon Infinity. Because that would have, on the way there, he could have gotten out another Cyber Dragon. And then he would have had Infinity to cancel my plays and really lock down the duel there. But Skill Drain pretty much means that's not a viable option anymore. So, let's see what he goes for. He doesn't get the effect off that. He just goes into Constellar because that's probably the highest attack points he has in his extra deck. And he just goes for the attack. I might have kept the cards on the field as material in case your opponent doesn't have anything. Then you could always, you know, possibly get that Power Bond, and that would still win you the game. So we activated Danger Zone, and that let us get 3 cards. We already had a Danger monster in my hand, so no fear there. We just have to discard a Danger and one other card. So it's going to be a Brow, of course. And we go with Nessie, so we get to search a card and draw a card right after drawing 3 cards. So even though we had nothing in our hand, look at what this hand is becoming. More cards. We get Into the Void, so we can draw another card and have all the discards at the end of the turn. Allure of Darkness, so we draw more cards. Gate to the Dark World, so I can activate an effect of another guy and draw off it. But we start activating the dangers before that because might as well. And that lets us get Lucent onto the field. I could start using the Allure of Darkness, but at this point, we're fine. I think we're fine. So we get more cards. Nessie comes to the field. I switch out Lucent for the Grapha. I put the Allure of Darkness down just so I can guarantee some effect off this. Might as well get more cards, and more cards, and more cards, and use Grapha's effect to destroy that with a field full of decent attack point monsters. It's a cakewalk. Next! Ooh, I remember this one being interesting. Check it out. So I believe I get the first turn. I have 1 danger card in hand, so we don't have a great hand, but we have Danger Zone to fix it up a little bit later. Now, I could have waited until next turn, but, you know, waiting is risky, so I have some plays to do. With the hand I have, there is some hope of getting some cards out, but the random card he selects, a 1 in 4 chance, is Nessie. So, unfortunately, Nessie does not get special summoned when they're sent to the graveyard as the card your opponent selects. Fortunately, I got a Bigfoot, but, you know, with Danger Zone on the field, with that just happening, I'm not going to take any more risks. I'm just going to let my opponent make their move. Most decks don't OTK. Well, don't always OTK. So, now that we see the Crystron Needle Fiber on the field, we're going to take advantage of it. We're going to pop Danger Zone, and I know I can send Bigfoot to the grave immediately and destroy Crystron Needle Fiber. Now, the plan was to destroy him before he got to bring something from the deck, but just the way the card order worked, he managed to get the Red Resonator out first, but still, I get to activate Bigfoot, destroy Crystron Needle Fiber, pull a card to my hand with Snow, and I have a nice hand now. So we got more to work with. He sets cards because I did stop his playstyle, and Skill Drain. So that's going to pretty much solidify the duel. So we just pull out Danger Bigfoot. Once again, a lucky pick from him. A 1 in 5 chance he sends Phantom Skyblaster to the grave. I was hoping to use him, but you know, it happens. So we go ahead and use that to send that out, which gives us another draw. We do more stuff. We get to send, you know, Chupacabra out there to get another Danger Bigfoot onto the field. And at this point, I only have Dark Worlds in my hand, and I don't want to force drag down by the grave. because, you know, he could just choose Lucent and it's just more attack, and I really want to get a Grapha in the graveyard. So I'm just being patient out here. So I'm just going to attack, and probably go into an XE monster here. Oh, I didn't. Oh, yeah, because I got skill drain, so I'm not going to go into an XE monster because chances are I just end up canceling my own effect. So we're just going to leave power on the field. However, it was a bad call. He takes him over with mind control, but honestly, both of the players forgot you can't attack with the mind-controlled monster, so that would have been funny otherwise. Anyway, we Allure of Darkness, and then we just smash the things again, because I didn't get any more danger monsters, so I'm still going to play the patient game. And now I'm going to cancel his spell cards, in case he has anything like that, because I know I can cancel his effects and his spells. So the only threat on the field right now is traps and power, and with 3,000, power's not a easy threat. So we draw, there we go, now we got a danger card. So I can do that, that gets rid of Lucent, and brings that to the field. I can use this, he sends Grapha away. Yeah, Grapha gets to destroy some of the back row. We activate the other one, another cards get sent away. I'm forcing cards out of my opponent's hand at this point. I'm getting draws left and right. Gates, Jackalope's gonna make him discard something. Another Grapha's gone, so what are we doing? We're hitting that back row. So now we're gonna Allure of Darkness, why not get some more cards? There we go, now we're gonna Gates of the Dark World, get this Lucent to the graveyard and back onto the field. Another draw. Switch him back into my hand with Grapha, so now I have more cards I can do. Switch that back into my hand, but thing is, if I summon Nessie and get the effect off of Lucent, I'll only get, you know, I'll only get so much. So let's just go at him, because chances are we had the win in this category, and we didn't even have to skill drain. This next one's a mirror match, which mirror matches with Dark Worlds get terrifying. So I'm not sure who's going right now. I think this is, oh, this is my opponent's side, so let's switch that, because I don't run Zombie Stein. So he goes out for a Zombie Stein to have a wall of power on the field to start things off. Not a terrible play. He has his Gates of the Dark World on the field, and he sets down a Brow. Now, I would never do that. That's my personal opinion. Keep the Brow in your hand, because you can use cards such as Gates of the Dark World to discard it and just pull more cards to your hand. He probably could have kept going here, but he also maybe didn't want to overextend. So, we see some power on the field, and I'm like, dude, I got a Grapha. Grapha can walk right over that with his effect. So, we're probably going to set our spell cards here. Well, might as well activate the Allure of Darkness, get even more cards. And since we can't use Chupacabra this early, and we had 2 of them, we're going to get rid of that guy right away. So we'll set down these because I can use these later. Let's start by using our danger cards. The order I always go in is I use the danger cards to discard first, then I use the Dark World spells and drag down. Drag down's usually the last in my discard order, unless I like need to use Grapha's effect instantly. Because right now I can, you know, save the specific choices until after my opponent randomizes the choices anyway. So I choose to get rid of Brow, or rather he chooses to get rid of Brow, and that gives me cards. So we're gonna pop Jackalope next, see what happens. He gets rid of another Brow, I get more cards, and look what I drew. Another Brow. I wonder what I'm using this Dark World Dealings for. Now, the thing about mirror matches with this, Dark World Dealings is a risky card, because your opponent gets effects off his discards too. Now, our opponent discards Beige, because he didn't have any other monsters that would have gotten an effect off. That'll let him special summon his Beige, but there are cards such as Grapha and such as Brow who get bonus effects if your opponent discards it. So, if your opponent plays the card that makes you discard. So, Brow lets you get an extra draw. Grapha lets you, I don't know, target a card your opponent controls, destroy it, and then what else does he do? You usually never get to do it. But yeah, you look at a card in your opponent's hand and then special summon it to your side of the field. So, kind of overpowered. So I was being very cautious about using Drag Down, about using Dark World Dealings, stuff like that. I'm going to target Zombie Stein to preferably kill him. That works flawlessly. I normal summon my Beige, switch him out with Grapha instantly, comes right back to the hand. And then we go for an Apprentice Witchling, because why not? Or Wee Witch's Apprentice, because my other guys were in defense mode, they're weak, they ain't doing anything, and I didn't have enough monsters to go crazier. So we have Danger Zones that we can activate later, and this is why, like, running too many of them can get a little bulky, because I'm not going to be able to use these all. But let's go, clear the field, and leave our opponent with a bunch of spell cards, and nothing to discard. He has a skill drain, but, you know, in the mirror match, it's not going to do a ton. So now here comes my skill drain, but look, I have a handful of cards. You gotta play kind of patiently, play kind of slow. So he goes for the skill drain. I could destroy it with this Danger Bigfoot right here, But instead I go for his Gates of the Dark World. In case I don't kill him this turn, I want to facilitate more options. So, because that'll just slow him down significantly. So I send Grapha away, because I knew I had that to destroy that card. Gets rid of a Solemn, handy. And now, yeah, the world is mine. So, we're just going to discard, 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 summon, summon, summon. I am not playing any of those Dark World dealings, because I could give my opponent a card they can use. But we'll just attack. Nice. Actually, come to think of it, like, a lot of these duels are really good. So let me know in the comments if you want to see less examples of the deck in the future. I assume you guys prefer more to less, but feel free to give me some input. We're going to see one of my favorite decks, Dark Magicians, going up against these Dark World Dangers. And he's running a Secret Village of Spellcasters, which is going to nerf like half of my deck. No Dark World dealings, no Allure of Darkness, no Gates of the Dark World. So he sets a Magician's Navigation. That's kind of what I was assuming it was. Either that or Eternal Soul, which lets him summon Dark Magicians. And he goes for a Dark Magic Circle and doesn't manage to get a Dark Magician off of it. So I'm feeling relatively confident he doesn't have a Dark Magician, but he has 2 unrevealed cards in his hand. It could be anything. So we are going to go and priority number 1, get rid of that Secret Village. Because I can use these guys' effects, but like this is how I facilitate most of them. Half of my deck is nerfed right now. Fortunately, we draw Nessie, and that gives me an idea. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set all my spell cards so I can force my opponent to activate one of these. Brow would be good because then I draw more cards off it. Nessie would be good because then I can search Bigfoot. And that's exactly what happens here. Nessie goes away, I search Bigfoot, and I happen to draw another Dark World Dealings. Why not? So I normal summon Brow, which normally I hate doing this. Brow's effect when you discard him so good, you get to draw 2 cards. But I want to force my opponent into selecting the danger Bigfoot. Because when Bigfoot's sent to the grave, I target 1 card on the field, destroy it. Secret Village is gone, and unleash the wave of plays. So I play a risky Allure of Darkness. Have to get rid of the Snow I draw, unfortunately, but that gives me more cards. I get a Danger Jackalope, and I decide to get rid of that. That lets me use Jackalope's effect to get Nessie back onto the field. Then we set this card, do a risky Dark World Dealings, but most of my deck is going to be cards that benefit off this, and we do benefit off it. We get a Beige, probably the weakest of my Dark World monsters, but it's another monster on field. Another risky Allure of Darkness. We get another Dark monster. We get rid of Bigfoot in this case because I really need more cards. I'm going to hold on to Brow for a hot second here. And we decide to go for a Skull Dread. So Skull Dread comes out. Lets me choose some cards, and I decide to keep the Drag Down by the Grave, because then I can force Brow to give me some more cards. So I do that, he discards Brow, I get another Brow off it, and I get a Skill Drain. Skill Drain, ladies and gentlemen. We just searched through half our deck that turn, and we got Skill Drain. Gates of the Dark World still in the field, so I don't know why I didn't. Maybe I wasn't looking at it. I can activate Gates of the Dark World, discard Brow, and keep the plays going. But I decide to just attack with Skull Dread, because that's the power I happen to have. Not going to use Skull Dread special summon effect, because I don't want to special summon on my Brow. I want to discard him. And we're going to end phase, feeling confident. Standard Dark Magician, can't overpower Skull Dread. Effects, won't be an issue. Downside, he has Dark Magic Circle, so if he can summon a Dark Magician, he can banish. So we're going to hope he doesn't draw one, and he doesn't. He gets a Dark Renewal. And, oh yeah, by the way, he had a Apprentice Illusion Magician in his hand earlier, but I forced him into discarding that with the Called by the Grave, or Dragged Down into the Grave. Too much Grave in Yu-Gi-Oh! So yeah, I forced his only way of getting a Dark Magician, because I knew that was most likely a card that can summon Dark Magicians, which it was. And, you know, all this scared me, of course, but not nearly as much as a Dark Magician would have scared me. So, Chupacabra, use your effect. We get Brows off. So, Brow, give me some cards. And we get to boost with Skull Dread, not really a big deal. Now we get the Gates of the Dark World. Not really going to do anything right here, but we can Monster Reborn, get some more power on the field, because we don't see any monsters stopping us. So let's go for some attack, shall we? We're going to boost it up a little and go for it now. I don't think this is the win just yet. We're still sitting light, but now we have 2 monsters, so if he does clear something out with Dark Magical Circle, it's not the end of the world, and we still have Skill Drain to stop any advanced plays. So, he does get an Apprentice Illusion Magician. He can get a Dark Magician to his hand. He can use Magician's Navigation to pull 2 Magicians to the field, banishing one of my monsters, having 2 monsters. He can then go into any Xe he wants, but nope! Skill Drain! So that'll cancel Apprentice Illusion Magician, adding insult to injury. He Metaverses, gets another Secret Village out, but hey, I played my spells. we're done here. And then I go for the attack, probably win the game right about here. So, yeah, that was fun. Next up, Dark Worlds against Lightsworn. He plays his Brilliant Fusion. He gets another summon off Seraphonite. He summons 2 monsters. He fields cards to the grave. He gets everything going. Graveyard's filling up. Mizuki, Unizombie, more cards go away. And then he eventually brings out Borreload Dragon. Not necessarily the strongest opening play, but a decent one. Certainly not leaving himself with no defenses. So, I see some Graphas to start clearing his field. I can't target the Borreload though, so I gotta be a little clever, especially considering he can lower my attack. Considering I have multiple 3000 attack point monsters, or well, at least once I get the field card, all I gotta do is bait it. So, we Allure of Darkness, we get a Bigfoot. That'll work. So I go for the Bigfoot. Discard Grapha so I get to clear out the Raiden as a bonus. Nice. I wasn't too worried about clearing out Raiden or Brilliant Fusion because they're not really scary on the field. And yeah, he actually has to reduce Danger Bigfoot's attack or else I'll trade with him. So he goes for it. Next I go for Nessie. Nessie comes out and I get another Nessie. So of course Beige goes to the graveyard, comes right back out. I drag down to force him into choosing Grapha or Nessie. He goes for Nessie. And Nessie lets me search another Bigfoot. Bigfoot comes out, discards another Grapha, which is kind of useless because Brilliant Fusion is just dead on the field anyway. And now I can switch out Grapha, bring you back to my hand, and probably discard you with the Allure of Darkness now, because you're not that useful, so get more cards. Now we can use Jackalope, and the reason I use Jackalope here with this many cards on my field is because either one of these guys are just going to get me cards to hand, so it'll fill up my field and then start filling up my hand. We got a Gates of the Dark World, so we can keep making plays. So I decided to go for a Borreload Dragon, or Borrelsword Dragon. 1, because it's good. 2, because it's a funny matchup. And he has a Reigeki in his hand. Fun. So, I go for the Gates of the Dark World and continue the summoning plays. Chupacabra's effect pops. We get Brow's effect off, so draw 2 more cards. We're going to do a risky Dark World dealings. Hey look, it paid off. Lucent comes out to the field. And now we're going to switch Lucent back to our hand for Grapha. We still have Gates of the Dark World we haven't activated yet, and we have Dragged Down by the Grave. So I was kind of glad to see Reigeki went away, but I guess Ghost Ogre's a bit more threatening in hand. Welcome back to the field, Lucent. So we're going to switch out the other Grapha. And we're going to turn that into a Galaxy Eyes Cypher Dragon, and into our big guy just for the attack points. We don't need to make 2 attacks here because there's only 1 monster, but we have enough on the field to finish the OTK. So we kill it with the Galaxy Eyes Dark Matter Dragon. We go for the attack with Danger Bigfoot, and we use Borrelsword's effect to switch our Galaxy Eyes into defense mode, meaning Borrelsword gets 2 attacks, get that nice juicy OTK. He doesn't give me the satisfaction. Next up, we got another duel where, let's see, oh yeah, okay, this one's not a competitive one, but it was fun. I happened to come across a player using a God card deck. So I'm, you know, just wondering why he set 2 cards. Not usually a huge play. I have no idea what's going on yet. So I just start doing my Dark World thing, bring Jackalope to hand, see what that can bring out. We get a Bigfoot into the hand, and then we go ahead and destroy a Marsh Macaron, and it clicks. Is he running a God card deck? Macarons fill the field, and I'm like, I'm gonna end my turn just in case he is. Like, I have other plays I can do, but I kind of want to see some God cards fight this. So, he doesn't have a God card in his hand yet. Well, he has a Winged Dragon Raw Sphere mode now that he could potentially use, but he goes for a Mound to the Bound. Now, I'm assuming he already has a big God card in his hand, so I go to destroy the Mound to the Bound. Danger Zone, I'm going to get rid of my Bigfoot, get rid of Mound to the Bound, and get more effects off it, of course. But there it goes. Gone. So now I don't have to worry about Mound to the Bound protecting his God cards. However, that lets him search Obelisk, so kind of worked out for him. However, I still wanted to fight a God card at the end of the day. So Obelisk hits the field, turn 3 against a competitive deck. Bravo, sir. I mean, I guess I helped facilitate it a little bit, but there we go. Downside, he can only attack 1 thing, so he's not gonna do anything too crazy. And now let's see how I retaliate. I don't have any immediate retaliation. You know, pop Dark World dealings, get some cards out of it, get some draws, get some more cards, and I have Grapha now, so we can actually target Obelisk and kill it. But we're gonna wait until it's a more guaranteed thing, because I got another turn to wait. So let's see if I get any more confirmation, because if he made me discard Jackalope during that turn, I wouldn't get any effect off, because you can only do 1 Jackalope a turn. Into the Void, useless card at this point. So we're going to Skill Drain, and make sure he doesn't have his can't be targeted effect. Okay, that's why I waited for the Grapha, actually, because I wanted to wait to pop Skill Drain on him. So now he can be targeted. He makes me discard Jackalope, unfortunately, so I don't get to use the effect of Grapha like that, but I have a drag down, so I make him stare his own demise in the face, discard Grapha, destroy Obelisk, and then unleash the wave of Dark World monsters. So we keep going, and going, and going. I feel like you've heard me say the plays that we're doing enough, and for good measure, Monster Reborn Obelisk. And he doesn't let me do it. What a jerk. Alright, and then the final one we do, I don't think I'll show the last replay because it's just a another one of these. I did a match against True Draco, against Invoked Dracos. So, let's see. So, we have Alistair come out. We see these really cool cards, and I don't fight True Draco a lot, so those cards are actually really good. He has Ignis out here. He has some plays. I go to set all my traps, which, you know, unfortunately we got multiple danger zones. If you want to just run one danger zone, feel free to go for it. I just find that it's usually always a good card, so, you know. So he's going to do some plays. I wasn't 100% what's going on, but I use Bigfoot. There we go. I get to search a card. Probably Grapha since I already have Gates. So we're going to use Jackalope. Hey, look, I got to discard Grapha. So we go to target that, but he has some effects that'll do other stuff instead. So he actually sacrifices himself to cut all my attack. Unfortunate, because Bigfoot was planning on attacking. So we're going to have to make new plans. We use Jackalope, which discards Brow. More cards to the hand. And another monster to the field. He gets another monster to the field. That also has an effect. When I activate effects, he gets to search a card. So I'm trying to aim for the OTK here, because I know he's searching monsters. And I have more plays. So we're going to play the Gates of the Dark World, use it to discard Lucent, because I'm looking for attack power at this point. And then we can switch out Lucent for, I think we have, yeah, that Grapha we have in the grave. So there we go, another card in the hand. And now we're going to link off for that Boral Sword. Boral Sword's great at OTKs. So now we switch him out for our Grapha. Cards in the hand again, nothing else to discard. But if I'm doing my math right, we got to play here. So I go for the attack with Boral Sword because I want to take his attack points. And this is the only way this works. I have to take his attack points. Then I have to attack with Grapha. Then, fortunately, I was so scared it wouldn't let me prompt it. But then I can prompt Boral Sword's effect to send him to defense mode and get that second Boral Sword attack off. GG! So we're done here. As you can see, this deck is fast, it's fun, it's competitive, and it's just trolly sometimes. I like the mix it is. It may not be the most competitive deck around, however, it reacts really weird. It has draw power that I like. You can mess with your opponent's hand, and that's always fun. Skill Drain's always fun to use. It's some good stuff, and it's customizable, because the extra deck is really up to you. A bunch of the cards in the deck are really up to you. You can just play a bunch of cards that you have fun using, and it'll probably still be very effective with this deck. So if you do want to download this deck, the link will be available in my Discord. If you haven't already joined that, there's a link for that in the description below. Thank you guys for watching this. Thank you for watching this session of Duel Week. It was fun learning the Dark World dangers. We'll definitely test out some of the other options with dangers in upcoming videos, because I know a lot of you are saying that some of those are even better, which is crazy. So that'll be fun. Leave a like if you've enjoyed, enable notifications so you don't miss tomorrow's video, and we'll see you next time.